Thanks, Drew. Welcome back. And this is Andrew Dyer. Welcome back. And now we're going to turn the page to Pro Hoops, where Drew Gooden and the Washington Wizards opened training camp last week, and they start the preseason in the next couple of days. And remaining with us to weigh in with their thoughts on the Wizards and the rest of the league are Mark Gray, the Sports Groove, and Coach Jimmy Fly Hellmann of HSRN. And Mark, it's interesting. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Arenas era with Eddie Jordan, where they made the playoffs 4 straight years. But couldn't cross that next threshold. The last couple of years, they seem like their roster is better suited for the playoffs than the regular season. But the youth failed them the first year, and injuries failed them the second year. Coach Jimmy Fly will debate that, but I think if Wall would have been healthy, they would have been playing Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
I kind of feel that way too. We can debate.
Right. But coming into the season, because of the all-in for KD in 2016, they didn't do many moves that would hamper their aspects to try to get that. But if this team is to take the next step, it's going to have to be built from within, with Wall and Bill taking those next steps.
And we're going to find out if indeed this is the backcourt, and you got to lock into those guys for the future here in the next couple of years. You know, I thought that they had the potential to be as good here as Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars were during the 80s in Detroit. They got to the finals 3 times and they won 2. So that's lofty. But when you look at the talent, yeah, I think that they have that potential. But is that the core? What do you do in the post area? I mean, do you?
But they don't have Lambeer and Mahorn and Dennis Rodman.
They don't have a relentless reader, but they've got enough parts around them, you know, the Drew Goodens. I hated to see Kevin Seraphin go, but, you know, they got scrappy players, you know, the Martell Websters of the world. They're a scrappy team, but to your point, you wonder, do they have the person with the, quote, clutch gene in crunch time? He was Paul Pierce last year. You know what I'm saying? He called game.
Right.
And more often than not,
he was right.
He made the big shot. I'm wondering, who is that guy? Has John learned enough from Paul Pierce to be that leader vocally as well as leading by example? I don't know if Bradley Beal is that guy or not, but
I think he is.
Who's the leader?
I think Bradley Beal needs to be pushed out into the forefront, but that has to come from the coaching staff. If John Wall learned anything, get the ball to Bradley Beal at crunch time. That's the man I want taking a shot when the money's on the line. We
saw Bradley put on his grown man pants in the playoffs last year after John got hurt. He averaged over 24 points throughout the playoffs, and he showed he had that dog in him. He's always been known as a really nice kid, but he showed he had a little fire in his belly.
And at least he was healthy too. And again,
and fought through injuries, because remember he had a sprained ankle and actually came back and played on it.
Pretty bad.
But he was at least available. You know, we've had extended stretches with Bradley Beal where he's been out for the last couple of seasons. So, again, health is going to be a big component. The worst place they can have injuries is probably the backcourt. They got enough fouls to give up front. And you got to manage Nene. That's the whole deal right now. He's the guy that they're a different offensive team in the half court when Nene's out there for whatever reason. And you got to manage his minutes and his playing time so he stays healthy, so he's able to be there for you down the stretch, because you never know when you're going to lose him or how many games he's going to be around.
But again, that goes back to coaching. Do you start Nene? I think at this point in his career, he'd be more valuable to you coming off the bench as a 6-man, big man during the regular season. Conserve him, because the one thing he does is he involves those younger players, because he's an excellent passer out of the post. He's a willing passer. Those guys start moving. He get them involved, gain their confidence. You could start Gooden. You could start. Do they still have Humphreys?
Yes, they do have Humphreys.
You know, you got options as far as putting other people in the start. I think they still have DeJuan Blair if he's on the roster.
Rumor has it.
But you know, at the end, at the end of the year,
with his protection program,
Gortat. One of the things that concerned me at the end of the year is that Coach Whitman was pulling Gortat late in games, and I thought there was friction to me, in the losing playoff game, the clinching playoff game at home. They claimed he was sick, but he played about 10 minutes of that game and sat the rest of the time. I'm not buying the sickness theory, because the money was on the line that day. Any professional athlete worth his salt
if you're on the bench
and
you can play, you want to be on the floor. You're right.
Right. absent Scottie Pippen with the migraine.
Well,
but
he even played through that now. But, you know, let's give him his.
He got a migraine when Michael went to go play baseball.
That's when his head really started hurting.
He's like, Mike, what are you doing to me?
But the real test is we see Paul Pierce, and he's taking his show back home to end his career in Los Angeles. Is Otto Porter the man who? And you got to give Paul the credit. Not only did he call a game, he called out Otto Porter, John Wall, and Bradley Beal, and they all heeded his call right before the playoffs. Do they carry that over to the regular season now that Paul is gone?
I don't see why not. They all had excellent postseason runs that came up just a little short. And again, it's the injury factor with Otto Porter. You wonder how long he's going to have him. Can he stay healthy? You know, I thought when he came into the league that his potential would max out at being the slim, light-skinned kid that used to play for Detroit.
Tayshaun Prince.
Right. That was the kid that I thought that Otto Porter could morph into. I look at him right now. He may have a few more skills. He's probably a better athlete. Mm-hmm. He's just got to stay healthy and do it in the clutch. And there's a big three for you right there. That's as formidable, potentially a trio as you would have in the league. Can you pencil them in for, 50 points, 8 or 9 boards, 6 or 7 assists? You get that kind of productivity, I think the sky's the limit.
Now you mentioned they lost Seraphin, and he was a kid that oversold. It was a high-end free agent market for the big level bigs. He was the next tier, and ended up by the time that he was ready to look back here, the money was gone. So he's going on a trial year at New York. They didn't really replace him, but they did strengthen their perimeter depth. You're going to get Martell Webster back, who's healthy. They signed local kid Gary Neal as a shooter to back up Bradley Beal.
And he's also got that championship savvy from having played with San Antonio. And I thought when they acquired him, it brought to mind visions to go back to the Arenas era. Antonio Daniels, who was a Spur that helped almost get them over the hump.
Right.
So,
Well, Neal can play some backup point guard, too. He can run the point. When he was in San Antonio, he played, a shooting point guard role. But again, it's going to be up to Coach Whitman and his staff to try to figure out the components and how to create new chemistry, because they got new pieces in here, and it takes time to build new chemistry. Because you're going to have Otto Porter, instead of coming off the bench as a sixth man, which I think he's perfectly suited for, I've said many times before, in the starting lineup now. So now, how does that affect your second unit? That's why I was considering sliding Nene into a second unit role. But that's part of what the coach has to figure out and decide, what is the best way for us to do
that's
this.
the training camp. That's what it's all about.
Start Martell Webster and Humphreys and bring Nene and Porter off the bench so you're stronger over the long haul, because Porter's capable of starting, but if you're going to win games with him coming in as a sixth man, your job is to win games.
And really, it gets down to not necessarily who starts,
Who finishes.
who finishes, and who's going to be out there on the floor. And I think that any combination of Beal, Wall, and Porter, probably for the final 5 minutes of every game, is going to be what the Wizards would hope, if they're healthy, is going to be the trio that will get them over the hump.
And he thinks that of that trio, Bradley takes the final shot.
Yes, there ain't no question. If I'm drawing up to play, he's getting the ball. I've said that 3 years ago, so this isn't nothing new.
All right. Well, we'll follow that throughout the year. But Mark, while I've got you here, we talk about KD in 2016. One of our media brethren, Stephen A. Smith.
Did he take him to task or what?
Did you hear about?
Yes, I did. I saw it.
That was like an hour diatribe.
That was whew. Anyway, first off, I hate to be the buzzkill, boys and girls, but I don't think KD's coming home. I'm inclined to agree that with his personality, the LA move might be something he likes. But the guys that I've talked to who live in the Southwest like the Southwest. So I think that Oklahoma City's got more than a puncher's chance to re-sign him. But I also wouldn't be shocked to see a Houston or a Dallas move before coming home. I know he loves his area, he loves his folks, but I think he also likes the fact that he can focus on being a ball player, and the distractions of being Kevin Durant at home, trying to maintain your career, may be just a bit too much, so he'll stay out west.
If you've been watching the show, my friend, you're not putting a damper on it because I've been saying that same thing for the last year. Give me a reason why he's coming here, because he's got a lot of reasons to go
leave
elsewhere.
South Beach for Cleveland, KD could certainly leave Oklahoma
That's
City.
a different thing.
He could definitely leave Oklahoma
together.
City for his home roots in D.C.
Well,
He made it okay.
He'll end up in New York City before he ends up back here. I'm sorry. Look,
He's as represented by Jay-Z's group now.
could be in Brooklyn. How about that?
All right,
he's
well, it's
going with
always
Phil
great
Jackson.
to have Mark Gray here along with his coach Jimmy Fly. And Mark, they can check out the Sports Groove.
Hey, check it out. Also got the podcast on theshadowleague.com, so check me out.
All right.